Good evening, and welcome to Sun Meadow Temple. We are so happy you've joined us. My name is Alba, and I use she, her pronouns. This is our first May observance, and I'm so happy you are here. As always, this service is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. Please remember that I will be gone for most of June, and all announcements will be pre-recorded or pre-posted. I will be available for sudden severe emergencies, but please keep in mind that I might be unable to reply immediately to any requests. I will also be on my previous laptop, which is not as fast as this one, but I should be able to fix everything that comes up. We'll open today with our opening words, which will appear on the slide behind you. Please feel free to read along at home or listen as I read the words aloud. We welcome you into the light of the gods and light this flame in celebration. May its brightness symbolize our connection to the gods and the natural world. May you join us in this community of faith, cherishing love, and with open hearts. So our theme for this month is war, as seems fitting for the holidays and state of the world, although I picked it months ago. Our readings today are Book 6 of the Iliad by Homer, translated by Samuel Butler, De Officiis by Cicero, translated by Walter Miller, and Beowulf translated by Leslie Hall. We begin with Book 6 of the Iliad. The fight between Trojans and Achaeans was now left to rage as it would. And the tide of war surged hither and thither over the plain as they aimed their bronze-shod spears at one another between the streams of Simois and Xanthus. First Ajax, son of Telamon, tower of strength to the Achaeans, broke a phalanx of the Trojans and came to the assistance of his comrades by killing Acamas, son of Eusorus, the best man among the Thracians, being both brave and of great stature. The spear struck the projecting peak of his helmet. Its bronze point then went through his forehead into the brain, and darkness veiled his eyes. Then Diomed killed Axylus, son of Teuthranus, a rich man who lived in the strong city of Arispe, and was beloved by all men, for he had a house by the roadside, and entertained every one who passed. Howbeit not one of his guests stood before him to save his life, and Diomed killed both him and his squire Calesius, who was then his charioteer, so the pair passed beneath the earth. Euryalus killed Dresus and Ophilitus, then went in pursuit of Asipus and Pedasus, whom the Naiad Abarbarea had borne to noble Bacolion. Bacolion was the eldest son to Laomedon, but he was a bastard. While tending his sheep, he had conversed with the nymph, and she conceived twin sons. These the son of Megistheus now slew, and he stripped the armor from their shoulders. Polypoetus then killed Astyalus, Ulysses Pidatus of Pericote, and Teucer Arateon. Ablerus fell by the spear of Nestor's son Antilochus, and Agamemnon, king of men, killed Elatus, who dwelt in Pedasus, by the banks of the river Satnioesis. Latus killed Phylacus as he was flying, and Euryphilus slew Menlanthus. And then Menelaus, of the loud war cry, took Adrestus alive, for his horses ran into a tamarisk bush as they were flying wildly over the plain, and broke the pole from the car. They went on towards the city, along with the others in full flight. But Adrestus rolled out, and fell in the dust flat on his face by the wheel of his chariot. Menelaus came up to him, spear in hand, but Adrestus caught him by the knees, begging for his life. "Take me alive," he cried, "son of Atreus, and you shall have a full ransom for me. My father is rich and has much treasure of gold, bronze, and wrought iron laid by in his house. From this store he will give you a large ransom, should he hear of my being alive and at the ships of the Achaeans." Thus he did plead, and Menelaus was for yielding, and giving him to a squire to take to the ships of the Achaeans. But Agamemnon came running to him and rebuked him. "My good Menelaus," he said, "this is no time for giving quarter. Has then your house fared so well at the hands of the Trojans? Let us not spare a single one of them, not even the child unborn and in its mother's womb. Let not a man of them be left alive, but let all in Ilus perish, unheeded and forgotten." Thus he did speak, and his brother was persuaded by him, for his words were just. Menelaus therefore thrust Adrestus from him, whereupon King Agamemnon struck him in the flank, and he fell. Then the son of Atreus planted his foot upon his breast to draw his spear from the body. Meanwhile, Nestor shouted to the Argives, saying, "My friends, Dananan, warriors, servants of Mars, let no man lag, that he may spoil the dead, and bring back much booty to the ships. Let us kill as many as we can. The bodies will lie upon the plain, and you can despoil them later at your leisure." Okay, so we will then move into Beowulf, which, while I speak enough ancient Greek to get those names, I will not be able to get the names on this one. I have Googled pronunciations, but I will probably not be 100% accurate, so please forgive any of my pronunciations. He seeks then his chamber, singeth a woe song. One for the other, all too extensive, seem homesteads and plains. So the helm of the wetters, mindful of Heribald, heart sorrowed carried. Stirred with emotion, no wise was able to wreak his ruin on the ruthless destroyer. He was unable to follow the warrior with hatred, with deeds that were direful, though dear he not held him. Then pressed by the pang this pain occasioned him, he gave up glee, godlike elected. He left to his sons, as the man that is rich does, his land and fortress when from life he departed. Then was crime and hostility twixt Swedes and Geatmen. O'er wide-stretching water warring was mutual, burdensome hatred. When Herthel had perished, on Gendao's offspring were active and valiant, wished not to hold to peace over sea, but round Hreosnaborha often accomplished cruelest massacre. This my kinsman avenged, the feud and fury as 'tis found on inquiry, though one of them paid it with forfeit of life's joys. With price that was hard, the struggle then fatal to Heisthin, lord of Geatmen. Then I heard at morning one brother the other, with edges of iron egged on to murder, whereon Genthenau maketh onset, Eofor. The helmet crashed, the hoary-haired Skylfling, sword-smitten fell. His hand then remembered, feud hate sufficient, refused not the death blow. The gems that he brought, that he gave me with jewel-bright sword, I quieted in conquest as occasion was offered. Land he allowed me, life, joy at homestead, manor to live on. Little he needed from Gepids or Danes, or in Sweden to look for. Trooper less true, with treasure to buy him. 'Mong foot soldiers ever in front, I would hie me, alone in the vanguard, and ever more gladly warfare shall wage, while this weapon endureth, that late and early often did serve me. When I proved before heroes the slayer of Dagon Hefren, knight of the Hugmen, he by no means was suffered to the king of the Frisians to carry the jewels, the breast decoration, but the banner possessor bowed in the battle, brave modded Atheling. No weapon was slayer, but war grapple broke then, the surge of his spirit his body destroying. Now shall weapon's edge make war for the treasure, and hand and firm sword, Beowulf spake them, boast words uttered the latest occasion. I braved in my youth days battles unnumbered, still I am willing the struggle to look for, fame deeds perform, folk warden prudent. If the hateful despoiler forth from his cavern seeketh me out, each of the heroes, helm-bearers, sturdy, he thereupon greeted. Beloved co-liegeman, his last salutation. No brand would I bear, no blade for the dragon. Wist I away my word boast to accomplish, else with the monster as with Grendel I did. But fire in the battle hot I expect there, furious flame burning, so I fixed on my body, target and war mail. The ward of the barrow, I'll not flee from a foot length, the foe man uncanny. The wall 'twill befall us as fate decreeth. Each one's creator, I am eager in spirit, with the winged war hero to away with all the boasting. Bide on the barrow, with Bernie's protected. Earls in armor, which of us two may better bear his disaster when the battle is over? And finally, we'll end with De Officio by Cicero. This one's a little different because it is him talking about ethics, but I felt it was pretty applicable. Then, too, in the case of a state in its external relations, the rights of war must be strictly observed, for since there are two ways of settling a dispute, first by discussion, second by physical force, and since the former is characteristic of man, the latter of the brute, we must resort to force only in case where we may not avail ourselves of discussion. The only excuse, therefore, for going to war is that we may live in peace unharmed, and when the victory is won, we should spare those who have not been bloodthirsty and barbarous in their warfare. For instance, our forefathers actually admitted full rights of citizenships to the Tusculans, Aquians, Volscians, Sabines, Hernicians, but they razed Carthage and Numantia to the ground. I wish they had not destroyed Corinth, but I believe they had some special reason for what they did. Its convenient situation, probably, and feared that its very location might some day furnish a temptation to renew war. In my opinion, at least, we should always strive to secure a peace, and that shall not admit of guile. And if my advice had been heeded on this point, we should still have at least some form of constitutional government, if not the best in the world, whereas as it is, we have none at all. Now, not only must we show consideration for those whom we have conquered by force of arms, we also must ensure protection to those who lay down their arms and throw themselves upon the mercy of our generals, even though the battering ram has hammered at their walls. And among our countrymen, justice has been observed so conscientiously in this direction that those who have given promise of protection to states or nations subdued in war become, after the custom of our forefathers, the patrons of those states. As for war, humane laws touching upon it are drawn up in the feudal code of the Roman people, under all the guarantees of religion, and from this it may be gathered that no war is just unless it is entered upon after an official demand for satisfaction has been submitted or warning has been given and a formal declaration made. Popillus was general in command of a province. In his army, Cato's son was serving on his first campaign. When Popillus decided to disband one of his legions, he also discharged young Cato, who was serving in that same legion. But when that young man, out of love for the service, stayed on in the field, his father wrote to Popilius, saying that if he had let him stay in the army, he should swear him into service with a new oath of allegiance. For in his view of the voidance of his former oath, he could not legally fight the foe. So extremely scrupulous was the observance of laws in regard to the conduct of war. There is extant, too, a letter of the elder Marcus Cato to his son Marcus, in which he writes that he has heard the youth has been discharged by the consul when he was serving in Macedonia in the war with Perseus. He warns him, therefore, to be careful not to go into battle, for he says the man who is not legally a soldier has no right to be fighting the foe. This I also observe, that he who would properly have been called a fighting enemy was called a guest, thus receiving the ugliness of the fact by a softened expression. For enemy meant to our ancestors what we now call stranger. This is proved by the uses of the 12 tables, or a day fixed for a trial with the stranger. And again, right of ownership is inalienable for ever dealings with a stranger. What can exceed such charity, when he with whom one is at war with is called by so gentle a name? And yet long lapse of time has given that word a harsher meaning, for it has lost its signification of stranger and has taken upon the technical connotation of an enemy under arms. But when his war is fought out for supremacy, and when glory is the object of war, it must still not fail to start from the same motives which I said a moment ago, which were the only righteous grounds for going to war. But those wars which have glory for their end must be carried on with less bitterness, for we contend, for example, with a fellow citizen in one way if he is a personal enemy, and in another if he is a rival. With the rival it is a struggle for office and position, with the enemy for life and honor. So with this Celt Iberians and the Cimbrians, we fought as with deadly enemies, not to determine which should be supreme, but which should survive. But with the Latins, the Sabines, the Samnites, then the Carthaginians, and the Pyrrhus, we fought for supremacy. Now, you may know that normally after our reading, I speak a bit about ethics and the world, and a whole host of subjects, but currently there are people who are much more educated on the subject who are speaking on those subjects, and I really encourage you to go seek those out and check out these websites, which are doing wonderful work to help people all around the world to do whatever we can to improve the lives of everyone. We will now play our sacrifice video. We leave this offering for our gods to symbolize our connection and devotion. We gift this rock to symbolize the stability of the gods in our world. We gift this water to accept the flow of our lives. We welcome life and bless our offerings with oil to share our riches. We embrace our connection to each other and the world and celebrate our revival. Alright, so now we'll move into our closing words. If it lets me, it's not going to let me. Okay. As we move out into the world, let us remember our community of faith. Cherish love and open your heart as you walk through life. Hold dear the light of the gods and our connection with the natural world. Go forth in celebration and carry the light of connection within your heart. Oh, and also, may the 4th be with you!